welcome everybody to the CRE Arena. And today we have a very special guest. And also, Tyler, I didn't tell you this before, but this is actually episode 1 of season 2. So season 1 wrapped up, went great, but you are the first guest for season 2, and we've got a show today. So Tyler Cauble, man of many talents, commercial real estate investor, developer, just an all-around very impressive entrepreneur. So, man, Tyler, thanks so much for being on the show.
Well, Augie, thanks for having me on, man. I like being number one. That's pretty cool to hear, and excited to be in the arena with you. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, before we get to all the commercial real estate success, I also want to dig into the digital media empire that you've really built over there. Take us back to how it all started. Kind of, where were you raised? Was it always in the Nashville market? Like, how'd you come up, and really, how'd you get to where you are today?
Yeah, man. I'm from Nashville. Apparently, one of the rare few unicorns in this market nowadays. And when I graduated high school, I immediately got into sales. So I started selling Cutco knives and did really well. Ended up making $30,000 this summer between high school and college. And look, as an 18-year-old kid, that might as well be $1 million. And yes. I spent it like I thought I had $1 million too. And one thing that I learned was, hey, I can go out and I can talk to people and I can sell and I don't have to work on an hourly basis. And that kind of really completely changed the way that I thought about work and in my future. And so I ended up dropping out of college because of that, because I sat there and did the math. I was like, okay, $30,000 in 3 months is $120,000 a year. What the hell am I doing here? Moved back to Nashville, worked in construction for about 3 months before I got a job offer from a boutique development firm. The owner I had sold Cutco knives to during that summer, and he heard that I was back in town, and he wanted me to come sell for him. So he paid for me to get my real estate license and put me to work leasing their in-house portfolio. That was back in 2013. It was a very different market. I was basically having to beg people. Yeah.
What property type was this? Was it property specific?
Oh, man, everything. We had about 150,000 square feet of retail. We had 57,000 square feet of office space and a couple 100,000 square feet of industrial. So from the very beginning, I was working on a little bit of everything. That firm was also pretty unique in the sense that by the time I left, we had about 1,000 townhomes either under construction, in permitting, or in planning. We built a 144-unit apartment complex. We were doing single-family custom homes. So I really got a wide berth of experience within the commercial real estate industry right off the bat.
Yeah, what a blessing, man. That's incredible. So
no kidding.
To get that experience, and that's similar to my story, man. I went to work for one of the best in my market, and that just catapulted my career in a major way. So anybody that can do that, from a young age and get around those folks that have been there, done that, and then also leverage their experience as well, because that's one of the biggest things. Like, we're talking about big numbers here, so to add some credibility and trust to your name that you are with this group can be a massive springboard for success. So you were in more the brokerage side of the business at this firm, and then how long were you doing that until you realized or just kind of felt that you were destined for more and wanted to get more into the investment side of the business, the development side? I mean, I assume you're watching it firsthand every day. So did they bring you in as a partner, or just did you have to go off on your own to do it at first? Like, kind of walk me through that, like when that transition came.
Yeah, it was probably within the first 3 hours. I mean, I immediately was like, yeah, this is cool. I would imagine if I'm sitting here making all the cold calls and he's owning all of the properties, getting, collecting rent, he's probably doing a hell of a lot better than I am. It was a phenomenal way to get started. And I learned how to go find tenants for properties, which is one thing that, a lot of the clients that I work with, they're worried about. They don't know. Right, a lot of them are transitioning from residential to commercial real estate, or they're moving from brokerage to investment, and that's always a big unknown. I was talking with a buddy of mine earlier today who has bought his first commercial property out in North Carolina, and he said the same thing. I was like, dude, you're a broker. You do this for a living. He's like, I know, but you like once you do it for yourself, it's still a kind of a different thing, and I felt the same way. So I totally get it, and I was able to sit in on all of the development meetings from day one. So I'm out here knocking on doors, sending out flyers, doing everything that I can to find tenants for the properties that I'm working on. That's how I'm getting paid. But every week on Wednesdays, we would have a development meeting, and I was able to go sit in those development meetings and just learn, just absorb. I couldn't contribute anything. Obviously, I didn't know anything.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
did that for 2 years, and I learned exactly what that company was doing, what they were looking for, and I was able to go out and find a property that fit that criteria. And so 2 years into working with them, I actually was able to partner with them as a profit share member on my first development project, which was 42 townhomes down in Bellevue, and pretty phenomenal entree into the world of development.
That's beautiful, man. And to have a firm that's willing to do that and also throw you in the game with them. I mean, not only for your personal development and professional development, but also as their business model as well, right? Because that's one thing even we've learned here, with our software company is we want our team members to be owners as well. There's just a different type of responsibility, work ethic that shows up every single day. I'm sure you know Publix, Lakeland, Florida is home to Publix, and that's one thing I actually wrote a paper senior year of college was about their secret sauce, but the way they've exploded the way they have is because of their ESOP. So, there's a reason why the 16-year-old bag boy, really cares for that place, like he owns it, because he does own it, right? And so I think there's a different level of care there. So that's a really cool opportunity for you. And then walk us through, what that looked like. So how did that development go? And then, once that development was done, I assume you learned a ton. And then, how long were you with that group? Was there a point then where you said, hey, I'm a part of this group and now I have, bigger things to conquer and go out on my own? Or kind of walk me through that?
Yeah, man. I mean, look, it was unfortunately, it was a pretty toxic work environment. I was there for 4.5 years before I left and started my own thing. I mean, to put it in perspective, I wrote a book on how to lease commercial real estate, and the team didn't show up for the book launch, right? Like it was that kind of group. The owner, and it is what it is, and we're still fighting over this today. But the owner at the end of the project said, if you want your 10% profit share, you can sue me for it. I was like, okay, well, that sounds like a lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
Man, like right off the bat, I learned, and this was somebody that I knew, I liked, I trusted for so long. When I was that age, I mean, if you're listening to this and you're just getting started in commercial real estate, the one thing that I will tell you, I know that it's tough to spend money on attorneys and get everything in writing. I was there. I didn't have the money to get everything in writing with attorneys. At least do something. At least get ChatGPT to throw something together for you guys to both sign. The one saving grace that I have in that case, which we are still, dealing with today, is that I have a ton of documentation. Everything is in writing through text messages, through emails, and I probably can't talk about it too much more than that. But just get something in writing. It's going to save you because that cost me $500,000 when I was 25, right? That's a lot. That's a lot of money today. That might have as well been the world back then.
Beyond that project, I mean, obviously you've learned a lot from that project, but then, what did it look like after that? Future development deals, I assume, once you left that company and you said, hey, I want to go buy my own first deal. And this is something that we talked about prior, but a lot of younger people in commercial real estate, or even more seasoned folks that have just done brokerage their entire career. What is really that first step to saying, hey, this is a deal that I'm going to go do on my own? And whether that's, raising LP capital or not, but what does it look like to go out and do your first deal on your own, and what do you have to kind of get through? I mean, actually the process to get that deal done, but also maybe like mentally as well. You're not with a big development company anymore and can kind of ride their coattails, for lack of a better term. But hey, I need to go do something for myself. What did you have to do in order to make that happen?
All right, so I wouldn't interrupt this podcast if I did not think it could massively benefit your business. If you do deals with commercial property owners, then you need REC. You can fly the map, you can prospect owners like never before, up to 160 million parcels with mass prospecting features, and you can put more deals in your pipeline all within one platform. So head over to GetREC, that's GetREHQ.com/arena for a special offer solely for our podcast listeners. I'll see you there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing, and this statement alone will tell you enough about like the work environment I had been in, and we don't have to talk about it anymore after that. The year that I left was 2018. I started my own commercial real estate brokerage February of 2018. I increased year over year in my brokerage business 300% that year. Let that sink in. right? Like just by being able to go be on my own and do my own thing and do the stuff that I thought that we should be doing, 300% increase. So like right off the bat, that alone gave me the confidence of like, okay, maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe some of the stuff that I was thinking that I could do, I can actually do. And, I was fortunate enough to go to a mastermind called GoBundance up in Whistler, Canada in 2017. And, met some amazing people up there, but learned about real estate syndication. And that was not something that I had ever seen because all of the developers that I had worked with before they had their own capital, right? So they were going to the bank, getting a loan and funding it themselves. I didn't think about, oh yeah, you could actually raise capital for these deals. So I was, over here squirreling away money to save up for my first deal. And they showed me how to do it. And this light bulb went off and I was like, well, hell, I could do that. I've been working with a lot of investors. Let's go see what we can do. And that first deal, I'll tell you, that first deal was tough to actually jump off the ledge, right?
Yep.
Because it's still, just because I'd been a broker for 5 years didn't mean that I had the balls to actually go and do it, right? There's still something that something has to crack, I don't know what it is. And finally it did. I was under contract on a deal for a client and it was a little $575,000 office building, potential for 2 tenants, totally vacant, but had been fully renovated. And it was on a corner. It was in a great little, cute little spot of town. That client ended up not being able to get their financing. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, well, I'm getting a 3% commission. That's like $18,000. I need that money. And, please don't drop the contract. Let me assign it to another investor. So I went and found another investor, put it under contract, had them assign it to them. And 30 days later, same thing happened with them. He couldn't get his money together. And he decided to back out. And so at that point, I'd been working on this deal for 90 days. I keep looking at it. I'm like, wow, I've already got the game plan together. I know that this is a good deal. It was like $81 a square foot, which, I mean, replacement cost is $175, right? So I said, you know what? Forget it. Assign it to me. I'll figure this out. And I had no idea what I was going to figure out because I didn't have the money, right? Like I'm over here being like, I need the commission. I need that 18 grand to get me through the rest of this year. So I had him assign it to me and I just started making phone calls and I ended up finding a couple of guys that had known me for a few years. One was a developer and one was a doctor. And they said, yeah, hey, we'll give you the money. Dude, the underwriting that we do today compared to what I did back, I'm embarrassed by what I did back then. Talk about back of napkin. This makes back of napkin look like a professional, math graduate from Vanderbilt put it together, right? It was basically like, hey, here's the purchase price. Here's what I think I can rent it for. Are you guys in, right? And they said yes, gave me $50,000 each. I don't know how the hell that happened. I rolled my commissions in to the deal, took another 10%. So I ended up with 25% total of that first deal. Couldn't sleep the night before, and we ended up crushing it. It was a great little deal.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. And those people, and so you've had these relationships, you've had these connections, and then you can leverage those connections when it comes to your first deal. And I assume those people had you said it was a doctor and someone else. So these people had those relationships with you before, but you proving yourself in brokerage or maybe with this development company before, it's like your credibility and the skill set that you have. Did you do a commercial real estate deal with one of these partners before you did your own principal deal?
So I'm trying to think back. The developer, I don't know if we had ever actually done a deal before, but he and I were working on a bunch of stuff. Crazy story. This guy ended up committing like $10 million worth of investor fraud and disappearing in the middle of this deal. Yeah, it was nuts. So I had initially sold my investor, both of them, on a 5-year time horizon, right? Let's get it up. Let's wait. We'll wait until, it's worth $850, $900, whatever it is. And then we'll sell it. We had to sell it at $750,000, much less than projected because I thought it was going to get frozen by the FBI. It was kind of wild. I mean, what a story. The guy disappeared and nothing ever came from it, which is kind of interesting. But I've never seen him or heard from him since. The other guy, Interestingly enough, the other guy, the doctor, he was a chiropractor, and we did do business with him. I had actually helped him renegotiate his lease at the current place that he was and re-sign a new 10-year lease. And he was in my B&I group, of all places.
There you go. That's incredible, man. That first deal, that's a little scary, especially when assets are being frozen by the FBI from one of your partners. That actually, very similar story, man, to my first deal. Actually, the one here. I have me, my wife, my kids in front of, and that's the only one that we're standing in front of on this wall because that was my first deal I bought. But same thing, $1 million, seller financed, $300,000 with a partner, seller financed $700,000. And yeah, I remember having that contract in my hand and just brokering deals for about the same time, about 4 or 5 years, and then just realizing that I'm about to assign, $700K worth of debt to my name.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh man, it's just the butterflies, they'll eat you up. But what I've learned in that moment is anytime you feel that in your stomach is like those butterflies coming, that's a push. You're doing something right and you're becoming uncomfortable, which is usually at the point where you grow, which that was my first investment deal. And somewhat similar, man, I closed on it on a Friday. Hey, so happy, closing on Friday, let's go. Friday night, I guess it was Saturday morning, like 2 a.m. or so. I'm asleep, I'm in bed by 9:30, but I learned this on Monday actually, but that Friday night that I closed, somebody was drunk coming through the intersection, and there was an intersection, like right over here, and I was like the first parcel kind of off the corner. There was like a bank, and then there was my parcel, and then it was one of those intersections that you go through and there's like a hump in the middle, and you kind of like so if you go through it quick, like, suspension kind of tops out sort of thing. So this guy blew through this intersection, got sideways, drifted up, hit my parking lot, flipped his car across my parking lot, and then he actually took out the Ballard to the water main. It didn't hit the water main, but it took out the Ballard that was protecting the water main. Like I said, less than 12 hours after I closed. So,
man, you're the reason that lenders require you to have insurance before they'll release funds.
Yes, 100%. 100. That was a very I took that as a great lesson because we actually ended up shopping insurance there at the very end. Like, quotes came back weird, and we're just like, hey, we got to get this thing finalized, and we had it finalized like the day before, but it did question in my mind. I was just like, hey, because it was seller financed. So I was like, could we just hey, I'll handle the insurance next week or so? Thank God we didn't because, like I said, a guy rolled it. And the neighbor had a video as well. Like he had video of the very end of this thing just taking its last turn or two. But the guy got up and took off on foot and ratchet, man. Central Florida for you.
Jeez.
Anyway, so... real quick, speaking to the younger broker and the younger broker or the broker that just hasn't bought any deals yet, there's usually some fear around the capital raise, but then also around the risk of debt. What would you say to that younger broker that is thinking about doing their first deal but just can't muster up the courage, or they just have too much fear to press forward? What would you say to them? The CRE Arena is powered by REC. If you are in commercial real estate and still relying on inconsistent cold calling through spreadsheets or a CRM that you absolutely hate, you need REC. REC is a powerful software platform that combines mapping, prospecting, and your deal pipeline all into one platform, built by brokers for brokers. Go to rec.co/arena for your first month completely free. That's REHQ.co/arena for your first month completely free. Now, let's get back to the pod.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're stuck in that position, what you should be doing in the first place anyway, regardless, maybe you're not even stuck in that position. You need to be going and finding somebody that has been there, done that, that's probably 10 years older than you, maybe. Age is relevant, but somebody that's got a few gray hairs that has been around the block, that understands how these deals are done, that can show you the ropes, right? It's going to make your life substantially easier. Give them a portion of the deal, give them a majority of the deal, whatever y'all end up negotiating. I mean, I still today bring partners into every single deal that I do because you never know. I've never done a hotel before. Well, we're about to deliver our first hotel here in June. The bank is looking at me. My investors are looking at me going, hey, you've done a lot of really cool stuff. You've never done a hotel. Well,
Yeah.
I bring in a partner. Here's my partner. He's been doing hotels for 30 years. He'll advise me through it. Everybody feels better all of a sudden, right off the bat, right? And so it'll make you feel better, right? Because you know that you're going to be able to go to this person and ask them questions. They're bought in. They want to make sure that this deal is successful as much as you do. So go out and find a mentor or a partner, a JV partner, whatever it is, that can jump into the deal with you that will make you feel comfortable. Here's the thing, too. If you've been in commercial real estate for 3 years and you've closed more than like 5 transactions, hopefully you've closed way more than that by the time you've been in there for 3 years. You're more of an expert on commercial real estate than like 99% of other people. So if you are looking at a deal and you think that it's a deal, there's a pretty good chance that it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You got to trust your gut on those things, and always have somebody kind of double check your math, and that's a great rule to live by. And actually, one of the only, I believe, the only LP deal I've ever done. Because a lot of brokers will put their money as an LP into larger GP funds, but the only LP that I've ever been was simply to learn. I knew there was going to be a return, and it was probably going to be good, but really just the guys that ran the fund, I just respected so incredibly much. David and Craig out of Biscayne Atlantic in South Florida, these guys have just been around for a long time, done a few $1 billion in transactions, and I said, man, I really want to learn from these guys, so I'll put my cash up just as a learning process. And that's, that was a massive blessing to me, and still talk to those guys till this day. So very good, man. I love it. Moving on here. Switching gears, digital media. Digital media is a big thing, and people hear the term, right, and people know what it is, and there's all these different types of media. And, when it comes to commercial real estate, there's been, I think, a lack of, good digital media out there, educational resources, just some of the entertainment type stuff. Like, there's not a lot out there that's tailored towards the commercial real estate industry, even though this is a $20 trillion industry, right? It's how our world really does work. So when did you kind of notice that, or there was a lack of good content on the digital media front for commercial real estate? And when did you really start to take advantage? Because for people that don't know, I mean, we're almost at like 100,000 subs on YouTube. Like, it's up there,
Getting close.
and which is probably one of the biggest commercial real estate YouTube channels there is. So when did you realize this, and when did you start to take action? And talk to us about that.
I know, isn't that also wild though, that it's one of the biggest commercial real estate YouTube channels, and it's only I'm at 75,000.
I know.
You talk about residential real estate investing, like Bigger Pockets is over 1 million.
Yeah, and the content's so good. The content's so good, but I know there's kids doing like Hot Wheels reviews that make 75,000 subs in like 3 months, dude. It's like, how does this happen?
Well, I mean, Hot Wheels are pretty damn cool, Augie. Come on, man.
Pretty sick, brother. 100%.
I mean, look, I noticed the deficiency back in 2013. I mean, as soon as I got into the business, because I started off at a boutique firm and I had no real education on the brokerage side. And so, that's eventually what led us to the Brokers Mastermind, which we could talk about here in a little bit. But I was incredibly frustrated when I first got started, because there were a couple of books on Amazon. There were a couple of podcasts, and one I think had actually stopped recording like 12 months before, and I was bummed out because it was actually a pretty good podcast. And there were no YouTube videos at the time. And so, being at a boutique firm, I had nobody else that I could go ask questions of. And nobody at any of the other firms wanted to help me, obviously, because I was just competition to them. And so that was really frustrating, man. I mean, it took me like 3 years before I really felt good, because I actually had to go through these deals and ask my boss as stuff came up, right? Because he didn't have the time to just sit down and run me through an LOI. Yep. He's like, go find a tenant that wants to lease a space, and then I'll show you how to put an LOI together. Okay, well, which is great, right? But it just takes a lot longer for you to learn. And so as soon as I started realizing that, I kind of started telling myself, man, as soon as I know enough about commercial real estate, I'm going to start teaching other people how to do this, because there's got to be a better way. I can't believe there's nothing like this out there. And I started following residential agents, to be honest with you. I listened to every Bigger Pockets podcast, because I figured, hey, it's close enough. Maybe I can bring some of those principles over and translate them into commercial real estate. And, it took years of that. So it was around 2017 is when I started really blogging and getting into that. Now, it wasn't good. I still didn't know what the hell I was doing. I would release a blog every now and then because I was busy, right? I was out brokering. I was still doing a lot of deals. And so I just didn't have the time to really lean into it until 2020. And in 2020, I went from 99% of my time out of office closing deals to 100% of my time in the office twiddling my thumbs, wondering if I'm going to have to move back into my mom's house because I didn't know if I was going to have a job tomorrow. Yep. So I figured, you know what, after I think it was like 2 weeks of just reaching out to, I think, every private equity firm, hedge fund, real estate acquisitions guy I could find on LinkedIn that all said, yeah, that's cute. Follow up with us next month. I decided, you know what, I'm going to start leaning into the blog thing. And so I started writing like 1 to 2 blog posts a day because I had nothing else to do. Again, this was before AI. So 1 to 2 blog posts a day. Back then, which I know it doesn't seem like that long ago, it was 5 years ago. That was a lot. Especially the type of content I was writing. And then I found I was watching a lot of YouTube content at the time because I really wanted to start a YouTube channel. And I had for years, but I just, it's one of those things like getting in front of camera and how do you talk to a camera and how do you make sure that you even make a video that people want to watch? And I can't remember who it was, but there was a creator that said, hey, if you're writing blog posts, those are already in your voice. That's a script. So just read the script on camera. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I can do that. I've got a lot of blog posts. And so it's really how it started. And we're over 600 videos on the channel now. And we just, keep going. I think about it all the time. I'm like, dude, I think I'll ever run out of content to produce for the channel. And even at 600 videos at this point, not a chance. There's so much about commercial real estate that I haven't touched, which I find interesting. But that's how in-depth and complex of an industry this really can be. I mean, I could do 600 videos on triple net properties if I wanted to. That's how granular you could really get.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating, man. I love that. I love that story. Everybody's trying to figure out something to do during COVID. I remember I was very fortunate. There was a portfolio owner that he needed like 17 BOVs. And we were charging for him at the time, and he's like, hey, I'll pay you for them because we might only sell a couple of them. But I had like 17 BOVs to do with like old rundown gas stations. And so like I had like, it was probably a full month or so, 4 to 6 weeks. And it was like when the country was shut down, I was cranking just doing BOVs for these gas stations in Central Florida. But I love that story, man. That's awesome. And so you started creating content 2020, 2021 or so. But then, how did that evolve? And one of the biggest pressures or the biggest roadblocks I think that people run into, and I've talked to other content creators, I know this personally, but there's so much going on. So how do you prioritize the content creation, the distribution, kind of starting out, what did the team look like? What did your schedule look like in order to do this efficiently? And then, how has it grown today?
Great question. I knew right off the bat I didn't want to learn how to deal with videography or edit or do any of that kind of stuff because that's a totally different skill set. So I hired a videographer to help me with all of that. And so that was it. It was me writing all of the blog posts, which became the scripts. And so I at least, was able to implement Gary V's, create it once and utilize it multiple ways principle. And then, the videographer would just edit it all for me. And so that's really kind of where it started. We just started doing, one video a week. And then kind of kept it going. Sorry, what was the rest of your question there?
Yeah, so what does it look like today? So as it's grown, and were you able to just pump out one video a week? And then kind of how much time did that take you in a week to get one video? Because, I've done things where it's like, man, I spent 10 hours this week on this video. And it's just like, I can't spend, 15, 20% of my week just to create one YouTube video. So how'd you be efficient with your time there? That's question one, I guess, from here. How'd you be efficient there? And then also today, 4 years later, what does it look like today? Is it still just you and the videographer? Has the team grown? And how have you evolved?
Yeah, no, today it's just me. I've got an assistant and a videographer. Like we keep it super lean. So all the content that you see, it's just the three of us. My girlfriend helps with a lot of the blog stuff now, so I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, it's pretty great. So as far as like the efficiency of time, here's the thing. I got so much practice during COVID recording videos like all the time. It was basically all that I had to do back then. Yeah. That now, I've done over 600 at this point. I can sit down and knock out a video in 10 or 15 minutes. And then my job's done. Like it's done. Honestly, in terms of like how much time it actually takes me to create content in a week now, it's probably less than 2 hours, if we're being honest. Probably under an hour. I mean, it's, there's like a running joke on the team. They call me One Take Tyler, because I will sit down and I won't mess up a script. Like if the script is rolling, like we'll go all the way through. So like the video, some of the, you probably can't tell which videos on YouTube are scripted and which aren't, because some of them I will just have bullet points and we'll just roll with it. But sometimes like the scripted videos, man, I mean, those are all done in basically one take.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And that's when you can let it fly, I think that's always how it comes out the most natural. And then also one thing I've noticed, like your videographer does an incredible job with like all the B-roll and just very engaging. So like you got a very talented videographer. So yeah, shout out to him, her, whoever that is, because they do a great job. So
you'd be amazed at how much goes into that. Like that's the stuff that you don't really think about, that you don't see. But dude, for every like 1 minute that goes out, there's probably 1 to 2 hours of work that goes into a YouTube video. So sometimes when we have these 20-minute videos, it's like 40 hours of the work that goes into it, which is kind of crazy. Some of these videos are unbelievably expensive to produce, but they're there forever. I mean, I've got a video that, we did 4 years ago that I think has made me over like $20,000 just on YouTube, which is kind of wild to think about.
Yeah, that's very cool. What is your favorite type of content to create, with YouTube videos? Is it more, you're doing property walkthroughs or deal rundowns, or is it more, hey, just teaching, brokerage fundamentals or sales strategy? Kind of what's that look like?
Yeah, my favorite is we've got a series called The Story of the Deal, where I sit down. Generally, it's with one of my CRE Accelerator mastermind students, and we run through the story behind an actual deal that they did, right? So we go tour the property, we actually see it, we look at what it was like going through the construction or the renovations of it, what it was like putting tenants in the space, and then I sit down and interview them about their experience going through that full process. And so like it's A to Z, what I wish that I had known when I was first getting into investing, of like, how did you actually pull this deal off? Because I don't pull any punches in those interviews. It's like, how did you get the capital? Like, okay, so you kind of cheated because you knew this person and that person, but like, what were the strings that you had to pull with them in order to make that happen, right? Or how did you land the financing? Or like, what were the actual problems with dealing with this tenant, right? Because a lot of people, when they make content, they make it, or on Instagram or whatever, they make it seem like it's all rainbows and butterflies, and it's not. This is hard. Like, commercial real estate is hard. I say this all the time. Like, commercial real estate is very simple, but it is not easy. Like, it's very simple. Go buy a building, put a tenant in it. Now it's worth twice what you paid for it. But it is not easy to go through that whole process.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you define hard in that sense, it's all different types of hard, right? Like the complexity of the deal. If you bring it on debt, are you raising equity? What does that look like? I mean, you got all of the due diligence items, obviously survey, environmental. You've got all of these things that you need to do, you need to check out on and really check the box to make this deal come to fruition. And then there's also that waiting period, right? So like even that first office building, it's like, hey, we're buying a vacant building or a piece of land and we're going to go develop something. So it's like a lot of cash is going out before you see any return, and usually those are pretty big numbers, right? Those are big numbers that come out. So there's a lot to that. Is like, what is hard about commercial real estate? All different types of hard. It'll get on you, mentally, emotionally, for sure. Physically, I mean, you're just working long hours and getting after it. But it's a great test, and for those that can stand it, the reward is pretty great as well. So absolutely love that, man. So before we roll here, two more items, but one thing. What's it look like here in the next 12 months? Like, what are you most looking forward to? I know the CRE Accelerator is taking off. You're helping a bunch of young people or just newer people to commercial real estate have success. You've had me on to speak to your crew, and it's an awesome crew. So anybody that's looking to get into commercial real estate or just how to grow, highly recommend it. So with everything that you have going on, the Accelerator, the Mastermind program, your own personal investments, developments, what are you most looking forward to here in the next 12 or 18 months or so that you want to share about?
Yeah, man. I mean, look, it's always great to be able to continue putting out the YouTube content. That to me is like, it's genuinely fun, right? I mean, that's so much fun to get to do. So one, just being able to continue putting the videos out. It's kind of crazy to me that there's 75,000 people out there that care enough to hear my opinion or take on commercial real estate to want to subscribe to that. So I think that's cool, and I'm very grateful for it. Two, yeah, the masterminds, they're awesome. You know, we've got the Accelerator Mastermind for investors. We've got the Brokers Mastermind for brokers. Man, it's unbelievably fulfilling. Like, it's one thing to do it for yourself, but it's a totally different thing. And you know this, right? Like, having trained a team, like showing other people how to do it and then watching them do it. It's like the coolest thing in the world, right? You know, I'm not a dad, but I would imagine it's the same feeling you get from being a parent and like showing your kids how to do something and then they successfully do it. You know, I get a lot out of that. And then you know, kind of on a more comedic note, I've got a boutique hotel that I'm delivering hopefully in June that I've been working on like relentlessly for 3 years. It's been a bit of a nightmare because it took 18 months for permitting. The city was just a nightmare. And selfishly, I am just ready for it to be off my plate so I don't have to work on it every day. So I am so looking forward to that.
That's awesome, man. I love that, and yeah, I totally know what you mean with helping somebody else out and them seeing that success. That's a major deal. Which this is a funny that popped off in my head, man, and I just can't help but to ask. But do you have, with creating so much content, we've created some content too. A very small fraction of what you've created, but I remember some of the best roasts or comments in my head. So do you have one that sticks out of just like an internet troll, if you want to give them the time of day, that like has just trolled you on a video, said the craziest things ever? Like, do you have any that come out and stick to mind?
Oh man, none that like really stand out. I've gotten, because you know, I was big on Instagram for commercial real estate back in 2017. Like, I was the first one to get to 10K. And so, dude, I had a lot of haters back then because of that, right? And so, like, I've gotten really good at just tuning that out and letting it go. But there is this one person now that they're not a hater by any means. They just, the way that they type, the typing sounds so, like, redneck that I'm like, man, like, it's almost a trope of a like it seems like a fake character is writing all of this stuff. And I think it's hilarious. Like, every time they jump in, and some of the stuff that they're dropping into my live chats has nothing to do with commercial real estate. Like, they're going off in their own stories about like getting chased by the cops and doing this and that and the other. And I'm like, this is like, I'm going to leave it because this is amazing. They jump into, you know, live stream every now and then and go off on some weird random tangent, and it's hilarious.
Oh, that's funny, man. And for them, whoever that is out there, it's like the algorithm knows that they're engaging and commenting.
They engage.
So they're your content, and so they hop on. They're like, "Oh, Tyler, he's got to get told today.
Time to jump in and tell him what happened this week."
100%, man. And I asked that because it just like a week or two ago, and like I said, we've been slower on content, but trying to ramp it back up here. And there was one, I was talking about a deal that we did. It was a larger commission I made, you know, earlier in my career, and I was saying like because I took one commission and then made it into a couple more, right? So building momentum on deals, things like that. So I was sharing how I did this deal and how I multiplied it into a few more deals. And then one like little kid said, "Oh, how'd you do this deal? It wasn't that haircut, that's for sure." And I was like, "Damn, dude!" I'm like, "What's wrong with my haircut?" And I clicked on his channel, and he's got like, I don't know, he's got a few hundred subscribers, but it's a Pokemon channel, and he's like probably less than 12 or 13 years old. And I was like, I don't know if this was a caregiver, this was somebody else, but somebody blasted me.
Dude, that's amazing.
From a Pokemon channel, dude. So took an L, but we live to fight another day. So
I love that. I mean, I would actually cherish that if somebody roasted me in that sense. Like, that's actually pretty fun. No, I mean, most of the stuff I get is like, you know, you'll have somebody that hates on you for being a landlord, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not in residential, and I specifically don't do that because of the reason that you're hating on me. So whatever. Another funny thing, like Pace Morby, I did a video on why the Morby method is actually telling you to commit lending fraud. And I consistently get Pace Morby stands jumping into that video telling me I'm wrong. And I'm like, I literally watched the video with a real estate attorney. We watched the whole video. So what, like, it's what Pace says. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think there's something there. I've seen some of the methods and things they're doing with buying some of these residential deals, and yeah, the whole wholesaling game, and there's a lot to that game which I've never felt comfortable about. And what I kind of break it down to is, people that are learning more of the real estate investing game, and it just kind of seems taking advantage, taking
Yeah.
advantage of people that are just in a lower spot economically, and then also they have a need, sure, but to capitalize on that and take advantage of that, it's like maybe there's some good wholesalers out there, but for the most part, it's just like, man, that doesn't seem like a game I want to play, and it's a tough path. So anyway, but yeah, if you come after somebody's tribe, right, especially if somebody as successful as Pace, it's like they're gonna come after you no matter what, even if you're just like trying to prevent them from committing mortgage fraud, right? So that's pretty funny, man. Before we go, this is brand new for season 2, okay? And I didn't tell you we were doing this, but we're gonna spin the wheel. All right, so we got a topic on here to close us out, okay? And so I came up with all these topics. My assistant wrote them, all right, because none of us would be able to read them. And so we'll spin the wheel, we'll jam on a topic, and then here's the thing: be thinking, what topic do you want to replace the one that the one you just talked about?
Okay.
All right. So if you're ready, we'll go ahead and spin this thing. Hopefully it doesn't fly off. This is the first time I spun it. We got sports. Okay, so we got a bunch of stuff on here: sports, finances, fitness, mental toughness. We got so some of the other things not to replace it with, family, etc. But sports has come in, and this can be from you growing up playing sports as a kid, what that taught you, how you relate it to business. I mean, maybe if you're involved in a sport now, what does sports look like in the life of Tyler Cauble, and how it shaped you?
No, man. I mean, look, my listeners that tune into the podcast and the live stream, specifically my office hours, where I kind of update everybody on like what I've been up to, they know exactly where I'm going with this one. But I just want to bitch about the Nashville Predators, our hockey team, for the next, like, how long do we have? Do we have an hour?
Come on, man.
Dude, okay, so I have been a season ticket holder for the last, like, I don't know, 4 years now. I've been a hockey fan since I was a little kid. The Predators moved here in 98, 99. And, man, it was such a terrible season. We knew that we were going to go through a rebuild. We knew it. We knew going into it. But then this past summer, they went and signed, Stamkos, right? I mean, from Tampa Bay Lightning. Dude.
Took them from us. I know.
I
Yeah,
mean,
you
come
took our
on.
knight in shining armor.
Dude, one of the best players in the league. We got
Yep.
Marchessault from the Knights. We got, just a handful of like really great guys because, we were super young last year. We brought in some older guys with like, some Stanley Cup experience. And we opened up the season 0-5, which is the worst start to a Nashville Predators season in like over 20 years. And the season really didn't get better from there. And it got to the point where my girlfriend and I were just like laughing at how awful of a season it was. It was really tough to be a fan. And look, it's one thing to watch these games and be like, you know what, those guys really tried. They like they're not connecting or something's going on. I have a really good feeling that it's the coaching, because we've traded half of our team twice at this point. I mean, come on, it can't be anything else. And there are some guys on the team that are like, you could tell they're hustling, man. Like they're giving it their all. But there's some guys where you're just like, why are they even on the ice? And there's some of the more senior guys. And so
you think it's like superstar mentality, or you think it's just at the end of the career, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of superstar mentality. I think it's I'm spoiled. Everybody else should be working harder and setting me up for stuff. And looking at you, Forsberg. Yep. And so, it's tough. I love hockey. So, man, I bet you weren't expecting us to really go off on a tangent like this when you just picked a random category.
I think it's hilarious.
Hockey's awesome. The Stanley Cup is going on right now. It's been really incredibly exciting to watch. If you're not a hockey fan, I highly recommend at least going to one game in person. They're awesome. If you ever go to Nashville, go to a Preds game. Outside of this past season, it's generally the most exciting thing you can do in Nashville.
Yeah, I went to the Preds game last year, and it was awesome, man.
Dude, it's
Fan base
electric.
is great, stadium's rocking. It's electric, so definitely a good time. So that is what we got for today. So Tyler, man, I cannot thank you enough. We will post all the links below to your socials, to your mastermind, and I would highly encourage you go check out the YouTube channel. We'll post that link as well. Engage with Tyler, follow him, join his mastermind if it makes sense. And Tyler, man, just seriously can't thank you enough for being here and spending time with us today. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.